Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahabachak Badash. I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS who have taught us His word and teach us His word today. And I want to give a salutation unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is the brother Yatazakba with the GMS Nebraska camp. And in this lesson, I want to, just speak on this law that Trump just passed, with the stablecoin. Basically linking it to the dollar, and what I mean by that is that, if you have $100 in stable coins, or if you have 100 stable coins, that's equivalent to $100 US. It's totally interchangeable between one another. And so what we're saying is that this is just another step in the direction of the MOTB, because before the mark is administered on a global scale, what has to happen is that the framework and the infrastructure for the MOTB has to be instated first. That's why we're seeing AI on a huge ramp up. We're seeing, here we're seeing the digital money be normalized, because as the scriptures say, you won't be able to buy or sell without that mark. But the money that mark is going to, run off of, the money that chip is going to run off of, is going to be digital. And this is a step in the direction of normalizing digital currency and making it more commonplace in our lives. And that's why I have this pulled up about gradualism, where it says gradualism is the theory that significant changes occur through the accumulation of small incremental steps rather than through large sudden events. Right, it will be a large sudden event if Esau just went, forehead first into the prophecy of Revelation 13, because what Esau eventually wants to do is that, let's read it. Revelation 13 and 16, it says, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And this mark is the charagma. This is that, this is the RFID chip that Esau wants to put in everybody's hand or foreheads. This is the goal. But what has to happen, if Esau just came out and started doing that, there would be a huge pushback against it. And so what has happened over the years, and what we're going to continue to see, is that slowly but surely, or quickly but surely, because the Lord will speed up the times, different aspects of the MOTB system is going to be instated, just like this stablecoin or Salakia. I have this up. I eventually want to grab this from Grok, but we may or may not get to it. But let's see. So let's go to pbs.org. It says Trump signs law creating regulations for dollar-linked stablecoin cryptocurrencies. And I think we're going to get a little bit of this article and maybe a little bit of the end time headlines one, because this one in PBS is really just talking about how Trump has how he's passing the bill, and how he's all for cryptocurrencies and things like that, but not really getting into how it works too much, which is why we might have to get use Grok some to bring out some more on how it's really going to work. But let's get into it though. It says President Donald Trump on Friday signed into law new regulations for a type of cryptocurrency, a major milestone for an industry that has spent heavily to strengthen its legitimacy and political might. So Esau is passing his laws to further his agenda. Like it says in Isaiah 10 and 1, woe to them that that write unrighteous decrees. And as a matter of fact, let's grab that. It says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. This is an unrighteous decree. Why? Because this is going towards the MOTB, where Esau wants to mark everybody with this chip, so but yeah, let's read on. Just want to grab that real fast. It says the Genius Act sets initial guardrails and consumer protections for stablecoins, which are tied to assets like the US dollar, to reduce price volatility compared with other forms of cryptocurrency. It passed both the House and Senate with wide bipartisan margins. The new law is meant to bolster consumer confidence in the crypto industry, which has quickly become a major power player in Washington thanks to massive campaign donations and spending on lobbying. Its passage comes as Trump has repeatedly pledged to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. So, Trump is saying he wants to be the crypto capital of the world. He's, all excited for this law that was just passed. But the thing is, Trump also in the same, out the same mouth, he says that he's not for CBDCs. Now, this stablecoin, the way that is being, for lack of better words, advertised by Trump and the Trump administration is that it's not a CBDC, because by definition, or not the exact definition, but a CBDC would be something that's completely controlled by the central bank system. It would be completely controlled by the government. But when we look at this stablecoin, in all intents and purposes, it fulfills basically what a CBDC fulfills. The government had to write it into law. The government had to give the okay for people to use it. They are the same ones that can, take it out of law. They're the ones that are writing the rules on how it's going to work. And so essentially, this is a CBDC, but either way, however Esau wants to call it, or, say what it is, it's still in line with prophecy and the MOTB. And I also want to mention, he's saying that he wants the U.S. to be the crypto capital of the world, but this law that's passed, this isn't just a U.S. based thing, because we have to keep in mind, like I mentioned, the stable coin is going to be a one-to-one, backing by the U.S. dollar. So 100 stable coins is 100 U.S. dollars. But something to keep in mind is that the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency. That is the number one currency in the world globally. And so what we're going to see is that stable coins is going to be something that is going to be used by all these different countries. This isn't just going to be in the U.S. We're going to see this going on in Europe and Asia. The stable coins and this digital currency is going to be commonplace in the world. But it says, the U.S. is just going to be the heart of it. But it says, for years, you were mocked and dismissed and counted out, Trump told crypto industry executives at a White House bill signing attended by about 200 people, including several top GOP lawmakers. It says, this signing is a massive validation of your hard work and your pioneering spirit. This, like I mentioned, this article is just more of Trump, talking good about cryptocurrencies. It doesn't really give too much more. So let me see in end time headlines real fast. As a matter of fact, before we come here, I do want to go to Grok, because I asked the question, what are the benefits of using stable coins instead of US dollars? And I asked this because I'm thinking to myself, if stable coins is basically just US dollars, but digitally, then what's the difference between what we already use? Because you can have $100 on your card, but never take that out in physical cash. You can just use your card or your phone to pay for things. So isn't that the same thing? But there is a difference. So let's read it. It says, stable coins offer several advantages over traditional US dollars, particularly in the context of digital transactions and decentralized finance. Here are the key benefits formatted for mobile readability. It says, price stability. Stable coins are pegged to assets like US dollars, minimizing volatility compared to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. This makes them reliable for transactions and savings. And it says stablecoin transfers on blockchain networks such as Ethereum, Solana are often faster and cheaper than traditional bank transfers, especially for cross-border payments. And this is when I started to understand, because it's the same narrative that is always pushed when it comes to this MOTB technology. It's always things are going to become more convenient. Things are going to become easier. This is going to be a better form of a system than what we had before. Just like moving from cash to cards. Cards are more convenient. It's easier to lose your cash. With cards, you have this one thing you got to hold on to, and that's the narrative between digital currency, to where they want to phase out cash, and the narrative behind it is that with digital currency, it's easier to keep track of. It's going to be more convenient for the user. It's all these is going to be good for you narratives that Esau pushes. And that's in line with Psalms chapter 55, verse 21, where it says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Because in this, process of gradualism that we're seeing, where small steps are being made to get to the final goal, what we're going to see is that there's going to be, Esau's going to be constantly, pushing why we should want to take these small steps, why these steps that we're taking are good and better than what we had before. And the whole time he's going to push it as if this is going to be good for people. The same thing that he's going to do with the MOTB. He's going to push the MOTB as if it's going to be, the answer to life, as if it's going to be, what everybody needs, as if it's going to be the, most beautiful thing in the world. But we know that it's also Esau can have total control over the populace, and that's the same thing with this digital money. Esau don't want people using cash, because with cash you can do under the table stuff. With cash you can, you can finagle the system so that Esau, that money don't go back to Esau. But with digital money, nah, this is on his grid. You got to come and use his system to use this digital money. But let's go back to this. It says, and like it mentioned here with the fast, low cost transactions, is like wiring money, to a different country, where you would have a wiring fee if you use cash of, $20, $50, however much it may be, and it'll take a while. With these stable coins, with this digital money, the wiring would be almost instant, and it would be a very, very low cost to do it. It says, global accessibility. It says stable coins can be used anywhere with internet access, bypassing banking restrictions or currency controls, making them ideal for unbanked or underbanked regions. So all you really need is a phone and Wi-Fi. You don't need your bank to use stable coins, is essentially what they're saying. And so they're making the system more accessible for everybody to use. It says 24/7 availability. It says, unlike banks with limited hours, stablecoin transactions operate round the clock on decentralized networks. And so, with the bank, there's certain things you can't do while the bank is closed. With stablecoin, it goes off the blockchain. The blockchain don't close. The blockchain is 24/7. And I want to ask another question real fast. How are we going to see stablecoin implemented in the near future after the Genius Act has been passed? See what Grok has to say about it. It says the Genius Act, signed into law on July 18, 2025, establishes a federal regulatory framework for stablecoins in the U.S. We talked about that already. Okay, it says how they will be implemented. It says increased mainstream adoption by financial institutions. It says banks and fintechs. The act allows banks, fintechs, and retailers to issue stablecoins under strict regulations, such as one-to-one reserve backing with liquid assets, i.e. U.S. dollars, treasury bills. It says major players like JP Morgan and Circle are already positioned to expand stablecoin offerings. It says expect banks to integrate stablecoins into payment systems for faster, cheaper transactions, especially cross-border payments and interbank settlements. So what we're going to see is that, this stuff is going to be so easy to use. It's going to be just like, it's going to be, it's not going to be like cryptocurrencies before, to where you have to learn about cryptocurrencies and, get into the system and really tap in to know how to use it properly and know how to, be involved with it. What Esau is going to do is that using this stablecoin stuff is going to be like, just like using Cash App. It's going to be just like using PayPal or Venmo. It's going to be a couple buttons. It's going to be where you can go on your bank app, and if you want to transfer, if you got $100 and you want to transfer $30 into stable coins, it's going to be a couple buttons you got to press, just like moving it to your savings account. And so let's go to the next thing. It says wider retail and merchant use. It says payment systems. Stablecoins will likely become a digital alternative to US dollars in everyday transactions, rivaling credit card networks like Visa and MasterCard due to lower fees and instant settlements. It says companies like Walmart and Meta are exploring stablecoin integration to streamline payments and reduce transaction costs. See, you're going to be able to go to Walmart and use your stablecoins. And it's going to become a thing to where, just like now, where you have a lot of people who, myself included, I don't use cash most of the time. I would instead, use my card or use my phone, because it's, it's more accessible, it's more convenient. And what eventually is going to happen is that with all the benefits that stablecoin is going to give people, that's going to be the new thing to where you might as well just use stablecoin instead. It's just like using the dollar, and all these places accept stablecoin. You might as well just keep your money in stablecoin for the things that stablecoin does better than the US dollar, and it already operates. It's going to fit into the system, like easy, but it says merchants may offer stablecoin payment options, especially for e-commerce and cross-border purchases. Let's go to the next one. It says regulatory compliance and consumer protection. It says reserve requirements. Issuers must maintain one-on-one reserves for high-quality assets and undergo monthly audits and disclosures, ensuring stability and transparency. So that's really the point of what I wanted to get here with these first two. I wanted to see how the people is going to see and be impacted by these stablecoins. But that's and like it says timeline and near future outlook. It says 2025 to 2027. So they want to do this in the next couple years to where let's read it. From 2025 to 2026, banks and fintechs launch new stablecoins with major retailers integrating them into payment systems. Stablecoin transaction volumes already at 28 trillion in 2024 could grow significantly, potentially reaching 2 trillion in market cap. In 2026 to 2027, stablecoins become mainstream for digital payments, especially in e-commerce and remittances. Regulatory compliance tools like Chain Analysis Sentinel will help issuers and regulators monitor ecosystems. And it says global impact. U.S. regulated stablecoins could set a global standard, with countries like the EU or Singapore adopting similar frameworks, boosting USD-pegged stablecoin use worldwide. So it's the same thing like the MOTB. Let's go to and notice the timeline is not that far in the future. Just like RFK Jr. and his wearables, where he said he wants that in the next 4 years. Esau is moving, and the Lord is putting the spirit on Esau to move forward with this technology. When Trump came into office, we started seeing everything with this MOTB infrastructure moving on such a high pace. As soon as he came into office, what did we see? The Stargate project, where billions of dollars was poured into AI technology. And this is in line with Matthew chapter 24, verse 22, where it says, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days should be shortened. Just like recently, you had the news where they were saying that the shortest day in history just happened. That the earth is quote unquote rotating faster, which the earth doesn't rotate, but that's a different lesson for a different time. But all in all, the Lord is moving time faster, and simultaneously he's making prophecy come to pass faster, so that the end may come, so that we may see our salvation, so that we may see the destruction of Esau's kingdom. But let's go to Revelation 13 and 16, because like we read, this digital money is going to be a worldwide accessible thing. It's going to be a very easy system to use. Esau wants to just transition right to it, just like we do with cards. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. So Esau wants everybody to get this mark. And this isn't just the U.S., this is everybody. It says small and great, whether you work a blue collar job, whether you're just a check by check guy, or whether you're some rich wealthy person, whether you're a celebrity, whether you're some CEO. Everybody, he wants everybody with this, except for himself, the elite. he wants everybody underneath. The elite of Esau want everybody underneath him to get it so that he controls the populace. But it says rich and poor, free and bond. Right. If you're in prison, you're gonna have, Esau is gonna be at administering MOTBs, for tracking purposes and things of the sort, or whether you're free. It says to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And I often bring out precepts like Psalms 55 and 21, or like Sirach chapter 12 verse 10, where it says, trust not thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Because what we have to understand is that this isn't just a payment system that the MOTB is going to serve. This is going to be a system of total control. This is going to be, without the MOTB, you won't be able to integrate into society. Like it says in Revelation 13 and 15, that those who won't worship the image of the beast should be killed. And that killed is going into a separation. You're going to be ostracized. You're going to be unable to fit into Esau's system or life as we know it. You won't be able to go to the hospital. You won't be able to go to school. You won't be able to get a job without the MOTB, because this is what everything is going to run off of. And what we're going to see is that systems like the stablecoin, these stores like Walmart, or the cash is going to be phased out, and digital money is what is going to be used. And unless you're using that digital money, you won't be able to buy nothing. And that's going to lead into the MOTB, where unless you have that mark, you won't be able to buy nothing. You won't be able to do nothing. And you're going to have to go off the grid. You're going to have to lean on Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And I'm speaking to the Israelites with that, the elect of the nation of Israel. For the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans out there, that while Esau is funneling everybody into his system, we have to be leaning more and more on our faith in Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, because there's coming a time to where, all these, plush amenities and easy ways of life that we have right now is going to be taken away from us. And we're going to have to trust on the Lord to feed us. We're going to have to trust on the Lord to, keep us protected and safe and healthy and sound. But it says, let's read on. It says in verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And I want to go into that real fast, where that 666 breaks down to Chi Psi stigma. And we're going to go here into Strong's G5516 and get stigma, which it says a mark pricked in or branded upon the body, which is what? The MOTB. Just like when you go into Charagma, when it says mark in 13 and 16, it's a imprinted mark. It says of the mark branded upon horses. You brand a horse to show that you own that horse. You brand a horse to show who that horse belongs to, that you have ownership over it. And that's what Esau is intending to do with humankind. That's 2 Thessalonians 2 and 4. He sitteth in the seat of the Most High, seeing that he is the Most High. He wants to own everybody. He wants to be able to track everybody and know what you're thinking, what you're doing, where you're at all times. And he's going to use AI to, be the tracking on everybody, to govern that system. And if you're doing things that aren't in line with what Esau wants you to do, if you're living in a way that Esau doesn't want you to live, then he's going to want to put you to death, whether you have the MOTB or not. But it says to ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked or cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods. So this is going to be, just like in the Roman Empire, where you had, the soldiers that branded themselves with whatever, with whatever, I can't think of the name right now, but basically with whatever army they were in. Well, Esau is going to brand people with, that mark to show that, they belong to him. But nothing else is coming up. I believe that's everything I wanted to grab. I know I'm probably missing something, because there's just so much to it. But Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Like I mentioned, it's just another step and gradualism. Expect to see, very soon that these stable coins and this digital money is going to be, accessible to use. That is going to be advertised. That is going to be, suggested. And I don't want to use the word enforced, because at first it's going to be an optional thing, but eventually it will be a thing where Esau is going to funnel people into the systems where this is what you're going to have to use. And, expect to see that very soon. The word of the Lord will not go out void. And that's how we knew when Trump was talking about he don't want to use no CBDCs, he's not with that system. I turned my nose up at that. I looked at that with a side eye, the same way that us brothers, when we put out videos about the World War III, and you got different countries talking about, Israel and Iran, and, Trump talking about he wants a ceasefire, we always brush that aside, because we know that a ceasefire and peace isn't in line with prophecy, isn't in line with the Lord's will. Like it says in Isaiah 55:11, the word of the Lord shall not go out void. And the Lord is speaking through the prophets. The Lord is speaking through his prophecies. And they're going to come to pass. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahawah Harkodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders of GMS, and a salutation unto the elect. Shalom.